Hello, and welcome back to Dear 40. This episode is going to be a little different because it was definitely not on my schedule. So, this is more of me just sharing a story with you. Recently, the topic of my thoughts and reflections have been about time. It's the most valuable resource we have. It is also the one resource that people tend to neglect, thinking that they have more than what's allotted to them. In my life, I have experienced deep hurt and deep love. I have experienced great loss and great gain. I have experienced being a vessel for life to come into the world. And I've experienced life slowly leaving this world. Through all of these experiences, time has been the key component and focus. What to do with this time? Some of you may know this about me, and some of you, this may be your first time hearing this, but my daughter was placed for adoption at birth. I was 15 years old, laying in a hospital bed, contractions causing indescribable pain. There I laid alone, no medication to ease the experience. At some point in the afternoon, the nurse came into my room and asked me to quiet down because I was disturbing the other expecting mothers. I was beside myself. So many emotions coupled with the physical pain of giving birth. I tried my best to quiet down, but this baby was coming. My body and my mind thankfully synced up, and moments later, my daughter came into this world. I essentially gave birth to my daughter by myself, April 23rd, 1996. I was chosen to be a vessel to bring life into this world, and although the conditions were not the best, I was still able to somehow harness the beauty of childbirth. Such a blessing. The doctor and nurses arrived shortly after my baby was born. They removed the placenta, cleaned us both up, then handed me my daughter, 5 pounds, 15 ounces, and I named her Paris. They left me to have a moment with her. I took my time, observing every inch of her. I smelled her face, her fingers, her hands, her hair. I will forever remember that moment, the sweet smell of life. I can't put it into words, but it's a scent that has stayed with me even to this day. That moment was a marker in time, life entering into this world. Little did I know, 14 years later, I had experienced life leaving this world. August 2010, New Orleans, Louisiana, my mother took her last breath, ceased to exist in the physical form. I wasn't finished loving her, but the time she was allotted had came to an end. I still had apologies to offer, questions to ask, stories to share. I just wasn't finished, and I thought I had more time, but she was ready. Weeks later, I had a dream about her. In the dream, I was outside of where she lived, waiting for the bus. I got on once it arrived, and to my surprise, my mom was seated near the rear of the bus. Even though the bus was completely empty, she decided to sit at the back of the bus, a window seat. I sat in the seat next to her. She seemed so peaceful and had a pleasant smile upon her face. We were happy to see each other without uttering a single word. After riding for a little while, I asked, "What was it like to die?" And she thought to herself for a moment, then said, "It was like pulling a string on a sweater, and you know if you keep pulling that string that the entire sweater is going to fall apart, but you just keep pulling anyway." That was the most profound explanation of what it's like to die that I'd ever heard in my life. I woke up from that dream with an added perspective of life, death, and the time that we have in between. One of the most precious resources. I genuinely, deeply enjoy and appreciate the people in my life, albeit near or far. a short lived experience, or a lifelong friend, I value the time I am allowed to share with them. Given the experiences I've had in my life, I am extra sensitive about taking time for granted. Each moment matters. If you are listening to this and we have ever had the pleasure of sharing the same space, thank you for allowing the time you have to be shared. And if we haven't had the pleasure of physically meeting, but you're still listening just because you know me or in some other way you happen to stumble upon this podcast, thank you for sharing your time to listen. Be sure to be full in each moment of your life with everyone in it. Having time is such a precious gift. Enjoy it wisely.